Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be another episode of collecting every LEGO Star Wars figure ever made. If you're not familiar with this series, I'm basically trying to do what the title says, collect all the LEGO Star Wars minifigures produced. This is going to include rare figures like the Chrome C-3PO, Cloud City Boba Fett from the original set, things like that. What this will not include are like the extremely rare 1, 2, or 3 off figures like the bronze Boba Fett or the actual solid gold C-3PO. Those are way out of my price range. But what we do have today is quite the haul. The series has been absent from the channel for the past few weeks, and I feel I'm definitely coming back with a bang. This is easily the most expensive figure haul that I've had here in the series, and it includes some very rare figures, including one that I'm honestly shocked to even have in my possession at the moment. But without further delay, let's jump right into it. First group of figures we're going to look at today is some Clone Wars figures. Like I've been saying on the past few episodes, I definitely want to start filling in my collection of Clone Wars figs, and these are some that I didn't have. So starting off from the left side, we have a droid by the name of EV-A4D. I believe this came in the most recent General Grievous Starship set. And yeah, this is a weird one, right? Like, just looking at it, it is kind of an unconventional minifig. There's so much going on with it, so many things hanging off of this droid. But it's basically supposed to represent the repair droid that is in Grievous's lair and like fixes him up after the Jedi kind of wreck him. But yeah, like, I think this is definitely a figure that could use an update. Specifically, I think we just need a dedicated head mold for the EV series droids. Like, if you look back in the day, there was an EV-99 figure, and they just kind of used an upside-down minifig head, which I honestly kind of prefer to this one. This one is just, it's a little too big and jarring using that arch piece, but even that's not ideal. I think similar to all the other droids they've done, this thing needs its own dedicated head mold, that's for sure. But glad to have this figure in my collection. Like I said, it's an interesting one. It's unlike anything else I have, so I appreciate that. Now I won't have to worry about getting that. Next up, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi in his Reiko Hardeen disguise. I don't even know what to say about this. I hated the concept in Clone Wars of Obi-Wan disguising himself and getting like basically a Star Wars version of plastic surgery to go undercover. I thought that was a bit much, but in terms of the minifig, I was actually kind of surprised at just how nicely detailed this figure is. And then I checked out the details, and this figure came out in 2013, which is kind of crazy to think about. That just seems so recent to me for them to still be doing these horrible Clone Wars bug eye faces. But this one is not nearly as offensive as some of the earlier Clone Wars faces. I do think the torso and pants, however, are really good. I think that would be nice for, I don't know, maybe like a Rebel figure or just a generic Star Wars background character figure. So I think the torso and pants are definitely good to go. Great pieces on this figure. The head, not so much. Those eyes are literally just staring into my soul. But this figure came in the HH87 Star Hopper set, which I think is kind of a mess set. I don't super care for it. And that set was like, what, $40? I don't know about that. I'm not saying the price it's overpriced or anything. I'm just saying, like, for that vehicle, I don't know. I wouldn't want to pay that. But yeah, the figure looks pretty good from the torso down. The head, of course, like all other Clone Wars heads, can definitely use some work. And then finally, for the Clone Wars slate of figures, we have the Geonosian zombie figure, which actually came in a Geonosian canon set. I didn't really care for zombie Geonosians. It was kind of goofy in the series. We got a lot of goofy figs here. I think maybe that's what this should have been. Not necessarily just Clone Wars figs, but like goofy Clone Wars figs. I think that's a good summation of what we have here. But nonetheless, I think that the details on this is actually quite nice. I'm a huge fan of the newer wings that they've given the Geonosians. This is one of those figures where I mean, if you compare this to like the original Geonosians and, decide like which do I want to use in a mock, I definitely want to use the Clone Wars versions, not the zombie versions, the normal versions. But the details on these are actually pretty nice considering it's a Clone Wars figure, and that head mold is actually pretty incredible. I think that just the printing on it looks really good as well. So I think it's a really nice figure. I just think that the idea of a zombie Geonosian is kind of wacky. But I'm so glad to have this figure. It looks cool. It definitely stands out. And those wings are just everything. Love those guys. So let's go ahead and put away those figures. Next up, we have some pretty cool figures, a couple of ones that you consider somewhat rare, somewhat valuable. So starting off from the left side, we got Santa Vader, and I actually love this figure. I think that this is probably my favorite Santa figure that they came out with in the Advent calendar. It's kind of disappointing they don't do these anymore. It's now just kind of like droids with a Santa hat or a porg with red body instead. Nothing uniquely printed. It's kind of annoying. But it's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, the Santa Vader figure I think just looks so good. I love this thing. This will it'll be very useful for some Easter eggs. So looking forward to putting this bad boy to use. I believe this came in the 2014 Advent calendar, which I think was actually a really nice Advent calendar if my memory serves me correctly. So not really much more to say about this. It's Vader and it's Santa. Pretty cool. Next up, we have the Sith Warrior figure, and this one is pretty freaking dope. Like, the printing on this thing is incredible. It is an awesome looking figure, and Lego really just knocked it out of the park with this one. I think it's worth showing the back on this guy also. Like, just, look at this thing. It's great. It's great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It is great. But yeah, so this came in, I think, the Jedi Defender class shuttle, and it's from the old Republic era of Star Wars sets. We got a few of those, and I don't. This thing just looks so freaking cool, guys. Like, this in terms of just cool factor, like this figure is definitely up there. Just the details are on point. It has some. It's using some of those like reflective prints, which just really will stick out on any figure. And just the dark red hood contrasting with the grays and the shiny grays is just, I love it. I love it so much. So, you know what, guys? I actually just realized something. We have an intruder alert. I don't know how this passed my watchful eye, but it looks like the seller of this figure sent me a fake lightsaber. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and yeet that out of existence into the shadow realm, and we'll never speak of that again. And then finally, over to the right side, we have Commander Sato from Rebels. Another pretty cool looking figure. I like him. He's like a generic higher up on the Rebel side. So if you don't even necessarily care about having Sato, you have his uniform, which you can use. I think the face print is actually pretty sweet. He has two facial expressions. I guess it's worth showing the other one because it's not nearly as goofy. Here, he's happy, smiley Sato. And here he's, oh my god, I'm dying, Sato. Rest in peace. But yeah, I like this figure quite a bit. The set, not so much. I think if I made like a top 10 list of like awful sets with great minifigs, that Rebel Frigate would definitely be at the top of the list because it had that Ahsoka in it as well. That was pretty good. And Sato figure, I think, is really nice as well. So a pretty basic figure. I think not too much to write home about. But yeah, this is the second slate of figures. I feel like we're really moving on up here. Next up, we have a figure that I've been waiting to get for so long, and I finally pulled the trigger, and that is, of course, a Phase 2 standard white clone trooper. This is something right here. I'm so glad to finally have one of these bad boys in my collection. So most of you will know these things ain't easy to get. This figure appeared as an entire figure only in one set. That was the Clone Turbo Tank Microfighter, which you would think maybe isn't the worst thing in the world, right? Like, that's a cheap set. Those things were probably around and circulating a lot. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to get. But no, this figure is actually quite hard to get. I think a lot of the figures from that original wave of microfighters are actually not cheap figures just because people weren't buying them a lot, I guess. I don't know. I feel like nowadays you'd be much better off trying to find microfighter figures. But nonetheless, finally have one of these bad boys in my collection. It's also worth noting that this figure did basically appear in an advent calendar. The way they kind of set it up was the helmet was like in one bag with something else. It was with some build. And then the clone was in another bag with a Santa hat. So that was, I guess, the Santa figure, quote unquote, of that advent calendar. But if you combine them both together, you still got this full fig. So technically, it's in two sets. In Lego terms, though, they would only consider it being in one set. And either way, it's still a difficult figure to get. It's not cheap. I spent $10 on this one, which I thought was a good price, but you can easily find them going for a little bit more than that. But I love it. Great figure. I think Lego's new Phase 2 helmet mold is far superior to the original. It's not even close. And I like the fact that this is movie styled, not Clone Wars, the animated series styled. So it's just a very solid figure all around. And this is the first of hopefully many that I can army build someday if we ever get these guys in a battle pack or another set down the line. So I love this guy so much. And now, finally, we have the rarest figure that has ever appeared on this series. And like I said earlier, I'm still kind of shocked to have it in my possession, but I'm sure glad I do. So, bingo, we got ourselves the original Cloud City Luke Skywalker figure. This is a rare boy. This is a very rare boy, and it's in great condition too. I think that if you guys wanted to buy this figure in this condition, it could easily run you like $150, maybe even a little more than that. So before I dive deep into the details of this figure, I do have to give just a very special thanks because I didn't have to buy this figure. This was actually sent to me by a fan by the name of Henry Barreras. So Henry, I am forever indebted to you for you gifting me this figure. Technically, it's an exchange. Technically, it's an exchange for you to get into the Boyle Lounge, but I mean, this means far more to me than I think the Boyle Lounge could mean for anyone. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you really want to be in the Boyle Lounge, who knows. But either way, I am so grateful for this figure, dude. Like, you have no idea. Like, it's in amazing condition as well, which is definitely key for something like this, for a figure that's this old. So I'm just so thankful for this thing, man. I really appreciate it. But let's talk about the figure. So you guys didn't know, this is, like I said, this is a rare figure, but it's really only rare for one piece in this figure. The head and hair appears on many Luke Skywalker figures. The torso and pants are actually used in like various other sets, not even Star Wars related. The rare thing on this figure is actually just that hip piece with that belt buckle and that other little detail printed on it. That's literally it. Those are the only two pieces on this thing that are really worth anything. So if you guys are looking for this figure, a lot of people on eBay will be, tricky, and they'll say like, oh, like Luke Skywalker from Cloud City from the original set, and in the title, and then you'll check the description, it'll say like, oh, like wrong belt print, which is the only part that you'd really care about. So just be mindful of that, because eBay sellers will try to trick you in that regard. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of silly. I actually saw one listing. It was of this figure. Well, I mean, of course, it didn't have the correct belt, but they had the lightsaber positioned like this, so you couldn't really tell. And nowhere in the description did they like actually mention that the belt was incorrect. And like, if you look close enough, you can tell that it's not correct. But basically, the two photos they had of this figure was like this, and then there's one like this. And I'm just like, come on, like really, dude? But I could tell, like, by looking hard enough, that the belt wasn't correct, and like they were trying to sell it for like $50, which, if you're looking for this figure, it's like, oh, that's like not a bad deal. But then you'll get it in hand and realize, oh, the belt's wrong. So don't get conned by these con men, guys. That's a wise words from a boyo. But yeah, this is so good. I've been trying to collect all the figures, and the fact that I've had now 2 of the rare figures from that Cloud City set gifted to me really does go a long way. Still got the Boba and still got the Lando to go, but I'm much better off now than I was at the beginning when I had none of those figures. So thanks to all of you who have helped me out on this series. You guys are very much so appreciated. But that's going to finish up the figures like showcase part of this video. I actually am only adding these figures to the wall, so we're going to skip like where I kind of look at the inventory and show you what I'm adding to the wall, and we'll actually jump straight into the time lapse. So let's go ahead and do that, guys. I ain't get to ride in my pod, even though I finally fixed it. I'm stuck here on Coruscant, couldn't see my boy kissed her. I ain't get to hug my mama, couldn't even give her no kisses. Can't see my girl in public cause these senators be snitching. They won't let me on the council, they say it's cause of my temper. When I'm sleeping in my bedroom, I tend to have a vision. Someone close to me is dying. Yoda told me to stop tripping. I might have to join the dark side and learn some powers to heal him. Obi-Wan is the real villain. You think that I'm kidding? He's overly critical and plus he never listens. He's holding me back, jealous of my 8-pack. Got death sticks in my Java juice cause every time I wake up in the morning I got murder on my mind. Count Dooku cut my hand off, he won't get away this time. And killing the defenseless ain't the way of the Jedi. But she told me to do it, I got murder on my mind. 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 I'm talking to... Alright, the time lapse is finished up. Now let's take a look at the wall. This thing is just looking so gorgeous right now. I'm so happy with it. I feel like I've just come such a long way since the very beginning. Really wish I had some sort of before and after picture to show you guys from what the wall looked like when I initially set it up and what it looks like now that I've actually been making efforts to buy more figures. So up here we added another exclusive rare figure to the Cloud City grouping, which is incredible. Still got the Boba Fett and the Lando. I'm sure those will probably go right there and there. But we're making some progress, guys. We definitely made some progress. So very happy with that. I think the next figure that I added was probably that Geonosian right here. Apparently, I do have the other one, the standard one. I mean, I know I do. It was in the crate mod. I'm guessing it's probably still with those figures. So actually, we'll probably need to go through and add that one right there. We also added in the EV series droid. I believe he's somewhere over here near Grievous. Oh, here's Reiko. There's our good friend, Reiko Hardeen. Oh, here it is. There's the EV A49 droid. I think that's the name of it. Maybe it's A4D. I don't know. It's an EV series droid with a bunch of stuff attached to its back. So he's chilling right there. Sith Warrior would probably be next. He's actually right next to another figure that I got. Oh, he was next to Reiko. So Reiko ended up being right here, and the Sith Warrior was right next to him, but ended up going to the next row. So yeah, he is chilling right there. Then of course we have the Darth Vader and clone troopers. So Vader is here. One thing I also realized is that earlier I mentioned that the Santa clone would have been like the Santa figure of the battle pack or of the advent calendar it was in. It's not true. It was actually in this advent calendar, which now looking at it, you got this custom Vader. Oh God, sorry Vader, please don't hurt me. We got the Festive Astro droid, another custom droid, and we also got like the Phase 2 clone trooper in that same advent calendar. That's quite an advent calendar. It sounds great to me. It sounds awesome. And then of course our Phase 2 clone boy is chilling over here. So there's your overview of what has happened to the wall this week. I think the next episode probably won't come next week, but the week after. It gives me some time to order some figures and actually have them come in on time. So yeah, I'm glad to be kind of back doing this again. I took a little of a break, but I think you guys will appreciate the new rare figures that have been added to this wall. And I'm just really super glad to have those in my collection finally. So that's going to finish up the video, guys. If you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.